Hello everybody, we are going to start the last section of Algebra 1 for the year. We've got new notes today and Thursday, and then we will review for our Chapter 10 test on Friday and Monday, take the test Tuesday, and then you'll have a few days of review to bring everything together from what we've learned this semester. And then it's going to be summertime. So with that, Section 10.5 looks at the graphs of radical functions. We've done a lot of different graphing this year. We've graphed lines, we've graphed exponential functions, we've graphed quadratics, which are those parabolas, the U-shaped graphs. And if you think about it, remember, taking the square root of a function and squaring a function, those are inverse operations. So what you see today might look kind of like the opposite of a quadratic, but I'll show you more in just a minute. So to get started with, notice that there's a table here. We're going to be taking a look at the parent function y equals the square root of x. And that is the most basic radical function there is. So notice that I started with the first value of x being 0. Think about why I might not have put any negatives in there. What happens when you take the square root of a negative number? What does your calculator say? Well, we can't really do it, right? We can't take the square root of a -1 or a -2 or a -3 because no number squared equals a negative. As a result, we don't have that on our table and it wouldn't be a part of our graph. So there is a whole section of our coordinate plane over here where x would be negative that we cannot even see on our graph because it doesn't exist as part of the function. So let's see what we can see. All right. If x is 0, then y would be the square root of 0, which is just 0. If x is 1, then y would be the square root of 1, which is just 1. If x is 2, then y would be the square root of 2, which is not something that we kind of have at our fingertips, but you could certainly put it in your calculator. And when you do, you'll see that it is about a 1.4. Now, it's not exactly 1.4, so I'm going to put the little squiggle in front of it, but it's approximately equal to 1.4. And then in 3, the same thing. The square root of 3 is not an integer, but it's approximately 1.7. The square root of 4 is 2. And then look at that. I jumped straight to 9. Anyone want to guess why? Sure enough, because it's a perfect square and it's a lot easier to graph 3 than a decimal. All right, so if we were to go ahead and start plotting these points, we have 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 1.4 is about there, 3, 1.7 is about there, 4, 2, and then all the way over to 9, 3. All right, if you take a look at that, it definitely doesn't seem like a line. It seems like some sort of curve, but it's not the J-curve that we saw back in exponentials. Instead, let's go ahead and see if we can connect those, and it pretty much looks like that. What you have actually is a sideways parabola, but just the top half, because of course y equals the square root of x. Well, if you're looking at square roots, that would have to be a positive number. Y has to be positive, so that's why everything is above the x-axis. All right. If we were to talk about the domain, just like we said a few minutes ago, are there values of x that we cannot use? Well, sure. All the way over here in this part of the graph, we cannot have any x's that are negative because you can't take the square root of a negative number. So that means that our domain would have to be numbers that are 0 and bigger. In interval notation, then, that means we're going to have a bracket, and it's going to be going from 0 up to, well, what's the biggest number that you could take the square root of? There's no limit. So it's just going to be good old infinity. For the range, we do also have restrictions because, again, y can't be a negative number. You can't have a negative equal to the square root of x. So again, we're going to start with 0. And then that's going to keep going up and up and up as well because y could be as big as it needs to be in order to cover a large square root. Now, what's different between this and what we had in parabolas is that the domain and range both have restrictions, whereas when we had parabolas as just a graph, not a word problem, but as just a graph, there weren't usually restrictions on the domain. That's not the case here anymore. So I think this information gets us started. Now I'd like us to go back and take a quick look at Desmos. So if you take a peek right here, you'll see that I have graphed y equals the square root of x. This should look pretty much the same thing as what we had before. We have 0, 0, and then if you use your mouse, you can hover over it and see the points. That's 1, 1. There's 2, 1.414, which is about the square root of 2. 3, 1.732, 4, 2, and 9, 3. 9, 3 is hiding behind my face, but that's okay. If you take a look at those really are the same points that we saw before. And where I got that was that I started out by graphing, and you can see, let's see if we can get this here in our view. There we go. You can see that I graphed the function y equals the square root of x, and then I just made a table so that I could actually highlight those points for you. This graph is going to be really important because it's going to help us to see what kind of shifts there will be. We've talked already today about the parent function, the most basic y equals square root of x function. But of course, every now and again, there might be a number added or subtracted inside the radical or maybe outside the radical. And that's our focus for today. So make sure that you've copied down the numbers into the table and that you've plotted the points and made your graph. So again, it's kind of like a sideways parabola, but just the top half. If we were to graph, and actually I'm going to go ahead and put this back in here so that you can see it down here as well. If we were to graph y equals the opposite square root of x, let's see, here we go. You're going to see that the rest, uh-oh, that didn't work. I forgot the square root. Let's try that again. The opposite square root of x, that's much better. You're going to see that that really does finish out the rest of the parabola. And that's because y equals the square root of x, positive plus negative parts. That really makes the parabola y, or x equals y squared, and that's what a sideways parabola looks like. You don't need to worry about that for right now, but you will be seeing it later on in future years. And I just wanted to let you know that yes, it is possible to have upright parabolas like we're used to, but it also is possible to have sideways parabolas for someday in the future. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our next example. All right, so we've looked at the graph of y equals the square root of x, but what do you think would happen when you add 2 after the radical? So you can see here we have y equals the square root of x plus 2. Well, when we had this with parabolas, what this really ended up meaning is we'd start with our y equals x squared, and then by adding 2, our vertex basically moved up 1, 2 units. So the whole thing just moved up. I think the same thing should happen here, don't you? So we're going to say that the prediction is that y equals the square root of x plus 2 is 2 units above y equals the square root of x. All right, well, it says above here that as we shift the graphs of radical functions today, we also take note of how these shifts impact the domain and range. Do you think that by moving things up 2 units, that's going to impact which kind of x's and y's we're going to have? Would it be the x's? Would it be the y's? Would it be both? Let's take a look at Desmos and see what we see. All right, in Desmos, the red graph is the original y equals the square root of x, and the blue graph is y equals the square root of x plus 2. So it appears that sure enough, our point that was originally here at 0, 0 went up exactly 2 units. Everything just literally moved. So here we have a plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, all the way through. The blue graph is exactly 2 units above the red. Because of that, if you think about where we started, the domain talks about our values of x. Well, our values of x in the red graph did not include any negatives. In the blue graph, also no negatives. And you know what? That didn't change. But our range did change. We started out for the range, remember that's looking at the y's that we can use. Well, now all of a sudden everything is 2 units above. So that means our starting point, this 0, 2, is 2 units higher than it was before. All right, so how can we write that? Let's go ahead and take a look at the next page. If we kind of skip over the table and the graph just for a minute, because we already looked at it, we'll come back and fill it out in a minute. The graph of y equals square root of x plus 2 is shifted up 2 units from y equals the square root of x, which is what we predicted. The domain is still the same. We still have the same kind of x possibilities. So it goes from 0 to positive infinity, but the range now all of a sudden doesn't start until 2, and will go up to positive infinity. And if you think about it from the table standpoint, if we plug in 0 for x, we'll get the square root of 0 plus 2, which is really just 0 plus 2 or 2. If we take the square root of 1 plus 2, that's really 1 plus 2, which is 3. The square root of 4 plus 2 is really 2 plus 2, which is 4. The square root of 9 plus 2 is really 3 plus 2, which is 5. So if we were to go ahead and plot this, we would have 0, 2, we would have 1, 3, we would have 2, 4, and then all the way over here we'd have 9, 5. And sure enough, just like on Desmos, that looks basically like the same graph, but everything has moved up 2 units. So it's important to notice that when you move up and down, that will impact the range, because that's the set of possible y values. When you move inside to the left or to the right, and that is going to be impacted by what's inside the radical, then you're going to impact the domain. All right, take a moment to think about that, and then let's take a look at the next example. This next graph is y equals the square root of x minus 5. Please make a prediction. What do you think this will look like as compared to the parent function y equals the square root of x? Did you say the same thing that I did? This should be 5 units below y equals the square root of x. Since that negative 5 after the radical means that we're shifting 5 units down, that's only a y change. Our domain has not changed at all. It is still going from 0 to positive infinity. But 5 units down means instead of starting at 0, we're going to subtract 5 from that number. And so our smallest y value would be negative 5. That happens when we take 0 as our value of x, because you can't take the square root of anything less than 0. So go ahead and take that value, plug it in. If you had a square root of 0 here, 0 minus 5 gives you that starting point of negative 5. So our summary for radical functions is that adding or subtracting anything outside the radical, sorry about that, will result in a shift up or down. And that's again outside of the radical. Addition moves up and subtraction moves down. Now, before we move on to the next part, you might remember that when we talked about parabolas, Ms. Jostin would say, what lies within lies to you. So any changes that are happening inside the radical actually seem to be opposite. For example, when you have y equals the square root of x plus 3, you see a plus. So you might think, oh, that's getting bigger, but actually you still have the restriction that what is underneath the radical better stay positive. So if x plus 3 has to be greater than or equal to 0, we need to solve for x. By solving for x, we have to do the opposite, and there you go. That's where it goes to the other side. X is actually greater than or equal to negative 3. You have to do the opposite of what you see here. So starting off at 0, 0, originally in our typical function, but now in this one saying, well, x better be greater than or equal to negative 3, that means that we're going to have to shift left 3 units. All right, so I went ahead and filled in the table, and you might notice, wow, those are some kind of weird x values. It's all, kind of all over the place. Well, the reason is because I picked x values that would give us nice perfect squares under the radical. You can really plug in whatever you want if you don't mind graphing decimals, but this is just a little easier to see. So if you notice, sure enough, our graph is 3 units over to the left. Every single point, you can just really move left 3, and that's pretty cool. So finalizing this then, the graph again is shifted left 3 units with the domain now that starts at -3, 0. So we're going to say it goes from -3 to infinity, and our range hasn't changed. It's still 0 to infinity. All right, I'm going to pick up with example 4 in the next video.